All right, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer, where we're going to unpack one of the absolute most fascinating and, frankly, kind of paradoxical aspects of human behavior, the dark charisma of manipulative personalities. I mean, have you ever stopped to wonder why some of the most complex or even dangerous people out there are the exact ones who draw us in the absolute fastest? Well, today we are going to break down the exact psychological mechanics of why that happens. So, let's get started.
I want you to really think about this for a second. Have you ever noticed how the most dangerous people in a room are so often the easiest to talk to? It's a pretty wild thought, right? Because logically, you'd completely expect someone with manipulative or harmful intentions to be, cold, distant, or just totally unapproachable. But in reality, they often show up incredibly charismatic, hyper-confident, and super engaging. They just draw you in effortlessly.
And when you actually contrast the two types of people, it's pretty eye-opening. On one hand, you've got individuals with manipulative intentions coming off as totally magnetic and confident. But on the flip side, think about the traits we usually associate with a truly kind person. A lot of times, they might actually seem a little awkward, quiet, or even difficult to read at first. And why is that? Well, psychology tells us that genuinely good people are often busy navigating real discomfort or overthinking their own mistakes, which, let's be honest, can make them seem like they need a nap. Meanwhile, manipulative individuals just aren't bogged down by all that emotional heavy lifting. They are entirely focused on the performance of their identity.
Which brings us to a massive psychological paradigm shift, a total redefinition of what charm actually is. See, we've basically been conditioned to think of charm as this inherent sign of a good heart, but it's not. Charm is a mastered mental habit. For people with manipulative tendencies, it is a finely tuned tool. They literally use it as a master key to bypass your logic and gain psychological safety with you. It's a performance, a tactic, not necessarily a reflection of authentic goodness.
So, to understand exactly how they pull this off, here's our psychological toolkit for today. We're going to look at 1. Faking value, 2. The dopamine trap, 3. The mirroring illusion, 4. Escaping discomfort, and finally, 5. False safety.
All right, kicking things off with number 1, faking value and trust, focusing on image over authenticity.
Think about the appearance of value. Manipulators use their charm as a literal social mask to hide their real motives, and honestly, their deepest fears. They want immediate validation, but without putting in any of the actual work. Contrast that with the reality of becoming valuable. Think about people who build genuine character or success from zero. That process is, well, it's boring. It requires repetitive, quiet, internal growth. But because manipulative people are far less concerned with doing that tedious inner work, they actually have way more energy to spend outwardly, projecting this flawless, charismatic display. Moving right along to number 2, the dopamine trap, using early obsession.
This is the biological sequence of how a manipulator literally hijacks your brain's reward systems. Step 1 is intense validation. A charming manipulator will shower you with intense kindness and validation incredibly fast. Think of that person you just met who immediately calls you their best friend or their soulmate. Step 2, this triggers a massive dopamine release in your brain. For a lot of us, anticipation actually feels way more exciting than reality. And that leads directly to step 3, mistaking potential for reality. You feel incredibly seen before any actual real connection has been earned. A good person takes time to slowly build that trust, but the manipulator exploits your brain's love for immediate rewards to trap you in an early obsession.
Which brings us to number 3, the mirroring illusion, mastering context building.
So, context building happens when an adaptive mind notices highly subtle emotional details to construct a world picture that perfectly aligns with your desires. Charming manipulators are insanely observant. They will catch a tiny shift in your tone or a micro-expression on your face that literally everyone else in the room completely missed. But here's the catch. They aren't using this information to show genuine empathy. No, they are using it to mirror your own patterns right back at you. They predict exactly what you want to hear and feed it back to you, making it feel like you've just met your perfect match. But it's just an illusion built entirely on observing your context.
All right, number 4, escaping uncomfortable truths or responsibility avoidance.
As we know, real growth is slow. It's repetitive, it requires taking ownership of your mistakes, which, let's be real, can make good people seem a bit serious or heavy at times. Now compare that to the fantasy world the manipulator offers. They are masters of responsibility avoidance. They'll shift the blame to maintain this pristine image of perfection. And psychologically, this is exactly why we fall for it. They are offering us a fresh start without the hard work. They provide this exciting escape from the difficult, uncomfortable reality of self-confrontation. It's an easy, flawless world, but it's entirely fabricated.
And finally, number 5, real versus perfect, exploiting the mere exposure effect.
The human brain naturally prefers things that feel familiar and predictable. The mere exposure effect kicks in when a manipulative person intentionally becomes a constant, pleasant presence in your life until they feel like a source of absolute security. Think about it this way. Deep feelers and genuinely good people often suffer from nighttime overthinking or social exhaustion. Manipulators just don't. Because they are completely comfortable just performing a social role, they don't experience that internal conflict. Their presence feels incredibly stable and easy, which your brain then mistakenly interprets as deep trust. They literally manufacture a false sense of psychological safety just by being a consistent, conflict-free presence. This is why it is absolutely crucial to learn to distinguish between someone who is actually safe and someone who is just pleasantly familiar.
Charm is a skill. It is not a personality trait. Let that sink in for a second, because this is our ultimate takeaway today. Manipulative people use charisma as a form of self-protection for their own fragile egos. Once you truly understand that charm is just a skill being deployed, you can finally begin to look past the surface. So let's quickly recap our toolkit here so you can actually spot this stuff out in the wild. Number 1, faking value through a social mask. Number 2, triggering early obsession through dopamine drops. Number 3, context building to mirror your desires perfectly. Number 4, escaping the heavy discomfort of real accountability. And number 5, exploiting the mere exposure effect to create a false sense of safety. These are the small, hidden patterns that shape so much of human behavior, yet most people completely overlook them.
So what does actual, genuine goodness look like? It's simple. Trust requires taking ownership and being real, not being perfect. The most trustworthy people in your life aren't always going to be the ones who make you feel amazing right off the bat. They are the ones who do the heavy, boring work of taking ownership of their lives. They offer you reality, not a perfectly mirrored fantasy.
I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. Knowing all of this, knowing the psychological mechanics at play behind the scenes, will you look for the awkward truth in people, or will you fall for the comfortable illusion? If you want to keep unraveling the hidden psychology behind everyday human behavior just like we did today, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you in the next one.